Hi, my name is Ondrej Kubovic and I work as ESET Security Awareness Specialist. And my today's presentation is going to focus on ransomware, the trends in this scene, as well as the fact that the attackers behind this type of malware are becoming more and more aggressive. Let's look at the agenda of my presentation. First of all, we will focus on the realm of charts, so numbers and what we can say about ransomware. Then we will look at the infection methods that these attackers are usually using. Then we will look at the newest trends that we have seen in the last couple of months. And in the end, I will also hint at the things that you can do to protect your company and your organization. Let's dive into the charts. The ransomware detection trend might seem that it is declining a little bit in this chart, but don't get fooled by this. The attackers are becoming more aggressive and more active in the wild, which will be also illustrated by my next chart. So yes, if you look at the trend, it's declining slightly, but still it's the attackers what is important and their techniques. You can also look at the families that are most prevalent and most prominent in this market. As you can see from the chart that is on the screen, the one that is dominating still, even after 2 years after its first appearance, is WannaCryptor. The fact that it's still on the top ranking means that these are old detections, old samples that we still see in the wild, and they are attacking usually computers that are not updated and in markets that are less developed. One interesting thing in this top 10, this is from since beginning 2019, Filecoder Shade just announced that it's closing shop and released 750,000 decryption keys for the public. Another way how to look at ransomware is through its families, and we have looked at the statistics of how many new ransomware families we see every day and put an average to it, monthly average, as you can see. One of the first big surges happened in 2017 around WannaCryptor or NotPetya, but in 2019 there was a really big surge that continued until the end of 2019, and actually the drop that you can see has been probably caused by the pandemic. So it shows that even ransomware gangs are influenced by the current crisis that is happening. You would be also interested, I guess, in the information which regions are the most targeted by ransomware. And as our map shows, the attackers don't take any chances, and they are attacking all over the world. The most targeted countries in this chart are actually Russia, Ukraine, and Turkey. But also, if you look at Western Europe, it's quite distributed and the attacks are quite frequent in Germany, France, Italy, or Spain. US is top in the ranking, and also Peru if you look in Latin America. So how much do these attackers behind ransomware earn? There is multiple ways how to look at this, so I will try to go through them. First of all, you can ask the ransomware operators themselves, because they like to brag, and they often do. For example, GandCrab has claimed they earned $2 billion in something over a year. When we asked our ransomware experts, they told us the number was around maybe 1 billion. But after that, the attackers handed over or sold their code to a different group that is still maintaining it and developing it, that is called Sodinokibi. Also, you can ask the law enforcement agencies how much they see. For example, FBI went through all Bitcoin wallets that they knew were connected to ransomware operations and found $144 million in the past 7 years that have went through these wallets. Of course, those are not all the wallets that are connected to ransomware. Those are only those that we know of. Europol is taking more the preventative steps, so they created this project called No More Ransom. It connects 150 partners, including ESET, and in 4 years of its existence, these partners were able to block and stop $108 million that would be paid in ransom to the attackers. So these payments didn't happen. But I guess the most frequently used number is the damage that ransomware is causing to economies and also to the targets or victims that were hit by it. Let's start with the big ones. NotPetya, this one is labeled as the most destructive malware attack in the history, and it has caused damages of $10 billion. WannaCryptor, which is probably the most known ransomware attack in history, has caused damages of $4 billion. But I have been talking also about the fact that the attackers are becoming more aggressive and more targeted. If you look at separate cases, for example, Norsk Hydro, which is an aluminum manufacturer from Norway, their attack of Lokergoga that they suffered cost them $75 million and still counting. Similar story can be told by Baltimore administration. The city has been hit by Robinhood ransomware, and it cost them $10 million in the recovery, but also additional $8 million that was lost in lost revenue. Also, if you look at the list, there are also other municipalities, universities, airports, hospitals, which are also often hit by ransomware because they are often easy targets due to their lack of security. And you can see that the payments are often in hundreds of thousands of dollars just to keep the patients alive, their passengers safe and let them land somewhere, or to just keep educating your students. So this is also another set of victims that we know of, and the numbers are quite high. Also, we need to say there is a big gray zone. A lot of companies don't report ransomware attacks because this would lead to fines and penalties by authorities. And also, this could mean that the companies would admit that they had faulty security. Okay, let's move on to the infection methods. How did they change in the last few years? Before, ransomware was targeting masses, so it was spreading through spam, through emails, and was actually not targeting at anyone specific. They were going for the masses. If somebody was hit, if somebody was infected, they were asked to pay a few $100s and the data would be recovered. In some cases, sometimes not even that. The attackers have changed their strategy, and today they are mostly targeting specific victims and asking for individual ransoms. So each company has its individual ransom payment, and the price of the data is actually negotiated. Also, one thing that the attackers started using more is that they focused on botnets, which present a better delivery method, more effective delivery method of the nasty package. One good example is Emotet malware, which is actually often delivering ransomware that is called Ryuk. Ryuk is actually one of the best earners that in the report that I mentioned before from FBI that looked through the wallets. New trends. What are the new things that we have seen in the wild? First of all, the ransom notes have changed. Before, they looked similar to what you see on the screen, so it was a small letter that was giving you some generic information and saying you need to pay $300 in Bitcoin to this Bitcoin wallet. Today, the attackers only leave a simple text file on your computer, and they will lead you to a landing page where you can negotiate the price and get actually even more information. These landing pages are usually on dark web forums or Tor landing pages. How do they look? I have one example that is exactly from Sodinokibi, which is one of the families that I mentioned before. The page is quite nicely designed. It even has features such as chat windows, chat support from the attackers. You can see what's the current price of the data or average price so that you can be better in the negotiation. And there are even how-tos, so you can find out how to decrypt your files, you can test their decryption tools, etc., etc., etc. Another big trend, and this one is the really big one, started in November 2019 when ransomware gang called Maze targeted American companies and started doxing them. Doxing is a technique that means that the attackers steal sensitive information that is protected by law, by legislation such as GDPR or CCPA in California, and they threaten to publish it. So the pressure on the victim is increased, and this pressure only adds to all those problems caused by the attack, such as stalled operations, reputational harm, or loss of customers. So all of those things just pile up. Interestingly and unfortunately, the attackers from ransomware gangs copy each other, and when they saw that Maze was so effective, they also Sodinokibi, Doppelpaymer, Klop, Akko, Nemti, and many others have followed suit and are also doing the same technique, so stealing information and threatening to publish. So that brings us to my last section, and that is how to stay safe in this new ransomware game. First of all, we need to understand what are the most targeted vulnerabilities or vulnerable spots in the companies that the attackers target. Even FBI would confirm often it's poorly secured RDP. That means if your remote desktop or remote access is protected by weak passwords, the attackers can test this by brute forcing their access and spreading ransomware in your network. Almost the same thing goes for open ports. If you keep many services open to the internet, the attackers will be testing if they can get in. A lot of companies are still running unpatched software, meaning unpatched operating systems, as well as unupdated security solutions. And when we are talking about security solutions, they are often missing from the equation. So the companies often use something that's outdated, that doesn't have, for example, anti-spam, or is not able to block network attacks. So be sure to choose something that is very powerful and multi-layered. And one thing that is mostly for bigger companies often lack monitoring tools such as EDR, which give them the information that an attack is ongoing and that they need to act. This puts companies in the crosshairs and also increases the threat level. So what you can do, first of all, protect your RDP with strong passwords, use 2FA or multi-factor authentication. Also keep RDP closed if it's not really necessary. If you want to read more, just point your phone on the QR code on the screen and you can get to our publication that details this. Another thing that you can do is train your employees. Again, behind the QR code there is ESET devised employee training, security training. When employees know how the threat looks, they can stay vigilant and protect it. Backups. You might argue that doxing is making these irrelevant, but that's not true. Backups are still the key thing that you need to move on with your business. So keep them on a separate infrastructure where the attackers cannot access them. And also don't forget to update all your operating systems and security solutions to keep everything up to date. And last but not least, use reliable multi-layered security solutions that can protect you from these new age gangs that are using new techniques and are getting very, very creative. So go for something that can protect you, for example, against the RDP attacks, as for example, ESET network attack protection technology can. So this is my message. Stay safe, stay focused, and keep everything up to date. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please send them to me.